Every single day, we have seen the prosecutors reveal new evidence against Young Thug, Gunna, and members of YSL. With this hard-hitting evidence, the judge shared in court, as this is a RICO case, Young Thug is looking at serving life in prison if found guilty. Here is what was said in the courtroom.
He's the one directing traffic. He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's King Slime. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge. And I implore you not to grant him a bond. He is dangerous. If he gets a burner, Judge, and the court may know this, a lot of the communications that Mr. Williams is on FaceTime, because it's not traceable, it's not trackable. Judge, I will also say that we have taken proffers from fellow from Mr. Williams. Some are on this indictment, some are not. They have stated uniformly that Mr. Williams is dangerous. They are afraid of him, that if they cross him, he will them and their family. And they were very clear about that.
Concerns that this court has is danger to persons and to intimidate other witnesses and obstruct the administration of justice. So and for those reasons in the aggregate, I'm going to deny bond at this time.
So during the court hearing, the judge also revealed 3 reasons why Young Thug will never get released on bond. First reason is how Young Thug runs his operation. Now during the hearing, it was revealed by YSL members that snitched on Young Thug that he is the head of the organization. Young Thug is very careful with how he moves. Thug would often purchase used iPhones in bulk and use them as burner phones. Young Thug and his team would delete all of the apps within the phone, only leaving FaceTime on the mobile device. He would then use these phones to FaceTime his quote-unquote troops to handle the business, whether it was on the streets, narcotic related, or even firearm related. There was even instances where Young Thug would use FaceTime to operate hits on rival street members. Now when using FaceTime, it's impossible for law enforcement and cell phone providers to tap the phones. FaceTime is often used by street members, as there's no trace of what is said in those calls anywhere. If Young Thug was granted bond, he would then have access to these burner iPhones once again. But members that snitched also mentioned how Young Thug is very dangerous. If you cross him, he will get you and your family. Now reason number 2 is that during the YSL Mansion raid where Young Thug lives, there was GTA type firearms found within the house. There was firearms found that law enforcement doesn't even know how he would have gotten these items. Now they used this to their advantage against Young Thug during the bond hearing, telling the judge, you cannot allow Young Thug, the leader of YSL, to be near these firearms and social media. He could then start directing his troops, the rest of the YSL members, to commit these acts in the free world. And here is footage of the YSL Mansion raid. Now the last reason being that Young Thug, even still behind bars, is still organizing crimes and having crimes started. An example of this is when the prosecution in the Young Thug RICO case announced they have proffers from members of YSL, meaning the members that snitched and created proffer deals is giving law enforcement information on Young Thug in exchange for a lesser prison sentence for themselves. Now once that news ended up being released to the public, we saw No Jumper report a YSL member was caught on an illegal cell phone, trying to get someone on the outside to destroy evidence in the Young Thug RICO case. So the county jail inmate using the illegal cell phone inside of jail allegedly came from the famous drone delivery. As 2 weeks ago, it was reported this evidence in the courtroom. Garlington and Quantavius did unlawfully commit the felony offense of conspiracy to possess telecommunication devices by an inmate, while speaking over a cell phone to an incarcerated Fulton County Jail inmate. They discussed a plan to fly a drone carrying a cell phone beyond the guard lines to a window at the Fulton County Jail. And to simplify what this evidence means, associates of YSL made a plan to fly cell phones near the Fulton County Jail using a drone. Allegedly, law enforcement watched these drones fly in, and rather than stopping the drone, they allowed the cell phone to be delivered to the county jail inmates, as they just ended up wiretapping the phone and was able to gather tons of new evidence against Young Thug in this RICO case. This is also the same cell phone where members of YSL called Young Thug while he was still a free man and asked Young Thug to go after YFN Lucci, who was also being jailed in Fulton County at the time. Now, law enforcement had the cell phone tapped, meaning they have the entire phone call on recording and even have Young Thug's answer to going after YFN Lucci. And shortly after that phone call with Young Thug on this cell phone that was obtained by the flying drone, a member of YSL caught YFN Lucci lacking inside of his jail cell, going after him with an item that he customly made within the jail cell. Once the prosecution was done giving their reasons why Young Thug should not be released on bond, it was then Young Thug's turn to share why he should be released on bond. Now, after hearing these reasons, let me know if you would release Young Thug on bond if you were a judge. It first starts out with Young Thug praying in the courtroom. Young Thug, before his attorney is about to get on stage, gives a prayer to the entire courtroom. Now, Young Thug's lawyer shared this statement. Attorney Brian Steele says the YSL honcho is being held in total isolation in a windowless cement compartment with only a bed and a toilet. He adds the jail cell has an overhead light that remains on 24 hours a day, preventing Young Thug from getting any sleep. Further, Steele says that Young Thug has no access to media or any opportunity to exercise, shave, or have any human contact. And don't get him started on the food menu. According to his attorney, Young Thug is getting a tray of inedible food. Steele included quotes around the food sarcastically. Now, while it sounds like he is describing a stereotypical jail cell, attorney Brian Steele says the conditions violate Young Thug's constitutional rights, in particular the 8th and 14th Amendments. Next, the rapper's attorney Brian Steele then offered a huge $1 million bond package. Young Thug and his record label would spend $1 million paying off-duty police officers to watch him inside of his YSL mansion. The same YSL mansion where they found GTA-type firearms as well as narcotics within the household. But these off-duty police officers would make sure he does not leave the property, he doesn't commit any crimes while living at home, and doesn't use any iPhone burners to direct his troops. 300 Entertainment co-founder Kevin Liles and massive businessman even then got onto the stand and offered to co-sign Young Thug's $1 million bond. After sharing why Young Thug should be released on bond, we then see Young Thug pray once again. Thug was literally praying in front of the judge to be released, but sadly was denied once again. Now, according to law enforcement, both rappers Young Thug and Gunna were both denied bond at their latest hearings. Both rappers were denied bond once again for one simple reason, and it was the reason that the Fulton County District Attorney, Fannie Willis, shared a new indictment that reportedly includes allegations of 3 passings and dozens more that allegedly involve Young Thug. One passing was identified as Donovan Thomas, as Young Thug is accused of renting the 2014 Infiniti Q50 sedan from Hertz that was used in the Thomas passing. They add in the courtroom, Thomas's passing is extremely significant. Willis said it occurred back in 2015, and what myself and any law enforcement member can tell you, as a result of the back and forth firearm use, many passings have occurred. There has probably been about 50 since 2015. This is from the back and forth between YSL and other street teams. Now, it is important to note that Young Thug is not accused of being the main person in these passings, but they are alleging that Young Thug has some sort of part in them, making the judge not want to release Young Thug on bond due to him being a flight risk of committing even more felonies if released. Now, would you end up releasing Young Thug on bond after hearing that, or does it make sense why he keeps getting denied? Leave a like on the video if you're a Thug fan. I'm out. Peace.